So, welcome back to the Hennessy's house with me, your host, Nicole Hennessy. Today, we are with our awesome guest, Kenna, who is a ball of sunshine on a dark, cloudy day. I'm really excited to talk with her. She's 23 years old with three boys, twins that are 16, and a 10-year-old son that she has full custody of. And they are her biological siblings. So, please welcome Kenna, and thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I want to dive right in with kind of where your background comes from. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your upbringing. We know that you have custody of these boys, but let's talk about your childhood for just a moment.
Okay, my childhood. Let's see. I grew up with my mom up until I was like mid-teen. I think I was like 12 or 13, and then moved to my dad's house because things had kind of gotten wild, out of control, I guess. But then I went over there and I got to see what like hard work looks like, and how to pay your bills and work hard and play hard. So I got like really different perspectives of life. I got to be with someone who is addicted to drugs and all of these awful people coming in and out of the home, and taking care of my younger brothers at such a young age, and all these big, huge responsibilities. And then totally switching that and going to someone who is well off and works hard and taught me all these other lessons of life. So it was a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful for both sides of it. But that's kind of my childhood, I guess.
You know, that's really interesting. I just did another podcast episode with a relationship specialist, and I asked the question of when parents are completely different people and they can't see eye to eye on how to parent the kids, like, what do you do about that? And her response to me was, we're not meant to be the same. That the more things our kids are exposed to, the more life lessons they can learn, right? But what we do
100%.
with that information is up to us. So I want to talk about how you ended up with full custody of these three boys at 23 years old. I mean, I was a teen mom, so I get the vibe of being 23 and being a mother, like, and what that looks like. But you're starting out with teenagers, and I have one now and I'm still not ready. So I want to hear about how this all came to be.
Okay. I went to college and came home after college, and I went to go check on my little dudes with my mom. And I just was going over there like once a week and buying them shoes and groceries and stuff, and saw that it was kind of going down since I had left and moved to my dad's house. And ironically, my aunt had opened up a case with DCFS against my mom during this time. And while that happened, I stepped into the situation and said, "Hey, I'll take temporary custody of them, and you can go to rehab and get healthy." Uh, and that's kind of how it started. And then that was like a 2-year long process of the DCFS case being open and me being there with temporary custody. And we tried to do a reunification with mom and everything, but unfortunately it didn't work out. And so then they gave me the option. They were like, either foster care or you, Kenna. And I just decided to stand up and go for it. And it's awesome.
Do you think part of the reason you decided to stand up and go for it is because you happen to work in the foster care system?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it definitely plays a part because I have seen so many sad stories that don't go well. And the foster care system is really set up loosely, which is sad, but the kids just don't get the attention that they need. And so I didn't want them to be a part of it.
Yeah. I want to stick with talking about your childhood for a minute, but I want to wrap back around in a little bit to talking about the foster care system because I think there's some insight there that you can enlighten on. But with these kids coming in, so were you still in college when you took temporary custody of them, or were you graduated at this point?
So I just graduated, yeah. And I was just working
Okay.
as a CNA at this time.
And how old were you when that happened?
20 when the case went open. And I think I was 21 when they actually granted me temporary custody because that's when it's legal.
What's that relationship like? Is she appreciative of you taking the boys on, or is there tension there? Does she feel like,
Right now, there's some tension.
yeah,
Yeah, hopefully it gets relieved within time, I think. But I just don't think she's in a great headspace right now. And who would be? You just lost, your whole family. And
And addiction
Yeah, it's
is an
hard.
ugly demon for
It's
sure.
so
It's
hard. It takes so much strength to overcome it, honestly. And it's very hard when you have like a victim mindset, and then you get involved with all these awful people that do awful,
yeah.
tragic things to you as well, and then that makes it even harder. So I don't know. Whenever she's ready to bounce back, she will. But for right now, it is a little bit of tension.
Yeah. And I think that when the people we surround ourselves with are a part of us, right?
For
So
sure.
when you're an addict and you have created an environment where you're surrounded with fellow addicts and drug dealers and that environment, nobody's rooting for your sobriety in that close knit. And unfortunately, even though I'm sure you love your mother and I'm sure the boys love her, you have to distance yourself from it for your own mental health. So it's a hard road to be on.
Exactly. Yeah. I stayed as long as I could until I realized it was pulling me down too. And then I had to draw boundaries for myself at some point. So,
So what did detaching from her look like?
um, well, she just said some pretty hurtful things as we were walking out of the courtroom for the last time, and custody had been granted to me. Um, and after that, I just said, this was not my plan. My plan was to help you, Mom. Like I wanted you here. I wanted you a part of this, but you chose not to be. And I walked out, and we haven't talked too much since. We did. She texts occasionally, and sadly, this past Thanksgiving, I texted her and I just said, "Hey, I need you to stop reaching out until you're sober. Whenever you're sober, we would love to give you another chance, but for right now, I can't do this. It's too hard for me."
See, I mean, that's smart because you're not saying, I quit on you and I don't love you or I don't want to be
Right.
a part of your life. You're saying, I do love you. I'm rooting for you to make the hard, right choices. And when you do, I'll be right here waiting.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I told her. I said, I love you as a soul. I love you as a human. I always will. But it's the drugs that I can't be a part of anymore because it just brings so much negativity and so much chaos.
It really does. It
Yeah.
is hard. So good for you for being strong enough to do that because it is something that a lot of people I feel like battle with forever. Drug addiction is one of those things that people tend to enable without meaning to
Yeah.
because it's so hard to detach from somebody that we care so immensely about, right?
100%. Exactly.
So, okay, so your mom's not in the picture right now. Do the boys call you mom or sister? What's that relationship look like?
Just Kenna. I'm still sister. I'm not the mom. I do all the mom responsibilities, but I'm just sister still.
What is grounding them like? Do they respect that or are they like, you're not my mom?
Oh, for sure they respect me. They're awesome. Um, I don't know. We're more of like friends. We really are. And I have the mom mindset. Like I'll see them doing something wrong that's going to lead them to a bad place, and we'll just sit down and we'll talk about it as friends. And I'll be like, "Hey, like this is what's going on. This is what you should be doing." And I'll open it up in like an inspirational way, try to inspire them to be better. And then they do it for themselves, by themselves. I'm just there to like guide the way, really.
You say as a friend, but in a positive household environment, what you're doing there is you're talking to your kids with respect. You're
Absolutely.
treating them like they are humans with valid feelings, and you're trying to get through to them, even though you're maybe disappointed or upset about an action that occurred, but you're discussing it with them with still holding a level of respect for them. And that's not necessarily a friend, that's just respect,
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure.
I'm curious to know what kind of support system did you have around you? What was your friends and coworkers and other family members saying to you in this?
Well, my dad's side of the family, my dad and his wife did not want me to do this whatsoever. They were telling me that it is not my issue, um, and I was kind of wasting my life solving someone else's problem. My friends just kind of involved with themselves, going to school, setting their lives up, so they just weren't around too much. Um, Gosh, and other than that, yeah, I didn't have too much when it first started. People were kind of against it. And even the caseworker was like, I think you're young. I don't know about finances. I don't think it's going to work. And I don't know. I knew in my heart that this was my purpose. Well, it's not my purpose, but it's a piece of my purpose here. And yeah, I just knew that everything would work. So went for it.
I do love that. I think that what that tells you is like you listen to your own gut,
Yeah.
right? Because there's always outside opinions, and people that care about you in a situation like that are going to say to you like, don't take this on. You have your whole life ahead of you. You need to worry about you. It's unfortunate, it's sad, but it's not your responsibility to do this because they want what's best for you.
Right.
But
Totally understand
only
where they came from, but
yeah. But the problem with that, the problem with people that genuinely love us and are like, don't take on this. I want happiness and no hardships for you, is that some people listen to that,
yes.
even if they don't want to. And then there's like that level of regret. So you did it.
Always.
You listened to
Yes.
your gut and you were like, everyone's telling me not to do this, but like, screw everybody. I want to do this. I'm going to do it. Um, how are you feeling about it now?
Oh my gosh, so grateful. Everything you go through that's hard, like you come out better, you come out stronger, you come out wiser. And this situation, holy cow, like I've become an entirely new person and I am so grateful for all the things that I went through and I'm so happy that I did it cuz now I have the boys like in my own selfish way. I have this family that I've always wanted that's so solid and always going to be there and they have one now too. Like it's just good in every way.
Yeah,
So
you get to
grateful.
better each other,
Yeah,
right? Right? I think children do make us be better people, right?
100%. They teach me stuff too every day.
I know. And then we're constantly worried on like, are we making them better people? Are they watching the bad things I did? Like, oh
I know.
God, am I screwing up every day? Because like the mom guilt in life is so massive. But they at the end of the day, like we are making each other better people.
For
And
sure.
even by making mistakes in front of them,
Yeah, we all learn from them. And
right?
it's so beautiful that we have like this open communication because like I'll make mistakes in my relationships and cuz trauma. Yeah. But we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and then we all learn from it. We will all take the lesson from that relationship so then they don't have to make that mistake. It's so beautiful to be close and communicating through everything because we're all just learning and making
Yeah.
each other better.
And the more we're willing to learn from other people's mistakes, the less mistakes we have to make,
Yes.
right? So you brought up the fact that when a relationship doesn't work out because of trauma, um, which I mean, and sometimes relationships just don't work out.
Okay, I
You're
agree.
20, you're 23 years old, right? I
Yes.
was a 23-year-old single mother. And so for me, I had a really hard time finding a solid relationship because of one, the maturity difference in me at 23 versus my fellow 23-year-olds that I was
Yes.
interested in, right? And then also when I felt safe and comfortable enough into a relationship to bring them home and let them meet my child, um, and then it didn't work out. Right? Like that, it was very problematic. It's very difficult to be a young single mom and date.
Yes.
So tell me about that for you.
um, well, I think I'm learning along the way, especially to have better boundaries about bringing people home. But I tend to get myself into these committed relationships, and things don't work out because I don't know. I just don't think I've met the right person to accept everything that I am. But I don't know. Relationships are hard. I don't even know what to say about it.
It is hard. I mean, relationships are hard when you don't have kids.
Oh my gosh,
And
the whole kid thing, the maturity thing that you're talking about, 100%. Finding someone that's in my age range that is willing to add three other schedules to their life and three other behaviors and three other problems and three not problems, but they go through problems we have to help them solve
yeah,
and like you have to be home and cook dinner every night. You can't go out and party on the weekends. You have to
yeah,
come home and do like family game night. And it's like a huge thing that you have to be willing to do for someone that I'm going to date. And that is hard to find for sure. And then to find someone just on the maturity level where I'm going to respect and trust what they're telling my kids or what lessons they're teaching my brothers,
yeah.
that's hard too. Yeah, it's very difficult.
So I will say that I would think that at least women tend to mature faster than men.
You would think.
No, does it not feel like that for
I
you?
don't think it's true.
No? Like,
No.
I always had to date me. Okay, so then maybe for you it's the same. Like, I always found myself dating men that were a lot older than me.
I think
Right?
that's
My
how things
husband
go.
is 7 years older than me.
That's a good
My
move.
it just I connected better on a maturity level with somebody that was older than me. I've just always, maybe because I'm like, go women, that I just feel like women women mature faster. So I was hoping maybe for you, you wouldn't have to go like 10 years into the future and you could go 4 or 5.
I don't know. Maybe 4 or 5 will do.
Hey,
But
women in their 30s are awesome. Just saying.
hey, I agree.
Just saying.
I know.
We'll find you a nice girl in her 30s.
That's the plan.
Okay, so I want to go back to when you were saying that you work in the foster care system, and that was a big part of like, I'm not putting these boys in the foster care system. What role do you play?
Technically, I'm a youth worker, but I work at our facility's intake center, so I do intakes and case management a little bit, and then I also
Mhm.
do some after-school program stuff, and just work with the kids that are housed at our facility.
So what is it from your opinion that you're seeing that you're like, these kids aren't getting enough attention? And obviously, we know the system's not perfect. That's not a secret, right? And we don't have to make this, a huge episode on why the foster care system sucks, but I want to know from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing?
The biggest challenges are each kid needs more than one caseworker for sure. Right now, they're just assigned one caseworker, and then if that caseworker takes a vacation or whatever, that kid is calling their guardian and can't get a hold of them because they're on vacation. So they need more than one caseworker, but that's hard when the turnover rate's so quick because social workers don't get paid that much. So the turnover rate's quick because you get burnt out quick.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, right? I
For
mean, we
sure.
say it takes a village to raise a kid,
Definitely.
right? So, I mean, trauma happens and triggers happen for these children all the time, and they can come from anywhere. So to
Mm-hmm.
not have somebody that they can get a hold of in those moments where they're going through something like that is absolutely
Detrimental.
unfair. Yeah.
Yeah. So besides just having one caseworker, the caseworkers also need to be knowledgeable about all the resources that are available out there. Because you kind of, as a caseworker, you have to do your own research, I feel like, at
Yeah.
least in where I have worked, to help and better assist these kids. And the
I mean,
kids
that
need
makes
more
sense.
consistency, you know? They need someone because if they're jumping from house to house to house, or from facility to facility, they're getting no consistency whatsoever. And then sometimes you'll even get a switch in caseworkers. Like with our personal case that was open for 2 years, we got switched caseworkers 3 times. We had 3 separate caseworkers throughout the duration of our case. And every time I was having to re explain myself and because so many people are involved in the case, and you have to go into this huge detail, and all these resources and details are being dropped because a caseworker is now added, and all those details weren't added into their files or whatever. And it's so sad. They just need more consistency. They need like a consistent therapist the whole time and a consistent team of caseworkers, each kid.
So I agree with you that if there's a team and that happens, then it's not, I just lost the only person that I built trust with in this
Exactly.
situation. It's just, okay, I'm going to be sad because I'm being separated from this person, but I still have my village. I still have my people. It's just this one person can't be a part of that right now.
Right.
No, I think that that's huge. And I agree with you about the money too. And that's hard because it's like we're saying they deserve to be paid more because these are hard jobs. I mean, you're really impacting the future life of people that have been through a lot of different types of trauma, right? And
For sure.
teaching them to not hold on to a victim mentality. And that is a huge that's a superhero role.
Superhero.
It should be.
Yeah.
And the people that do that job should all be playing it in that role. It is my job to teach them they are not a victim of their circumstances. They are a survivor of them and they get to build strength. And if it's
Absolutely.
if that's not the mentality because you're burnt out and you're overworked and you're underpaid after being young and new and enthusiastic about the job, you're going to be like, I hate this shit. And now it's just another day at work.
Exactly. Yeah. And it would be easier on the caseworkers too if they had a team to lean on as well, instead of it just being all on them. It would
I
help the
imagine
burnout rate.
I imagine the emotional support is needed just as much for someone working in that field as it is for the child.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you have to be so self-disciplined and giving yourself self-care, because if you're not, you're going to get burnt out, worn out, and it's going to suck. And just like you're saying, it's like,
Yeah.
shit, another day at the job. But
Well, I mean, some of the stories you probably hear from kids and the heartbreak you see people going through, and knowing that you can't change everyone's circumstances, right? Like you got to do that for your brothers. And that's huge and that's awesome. But we're all just one person. And each one of us individually, if we all did it, fantastic. But if you're just one person and you're working in this house where you care so much about all these children, you can't just take them all in. Like society doesn't make it possible to financially support and mentally support a whole house of kids all the time, 24 hours a day, just you, right?
right.
So if we wouldn't do that to an individual, why are we doing that to the workers?
Booyah. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel you. Where do I need to sign a petition?
Let's get one going.
Let's get one going. You've got these 3 boys at home and your own past trauma and your biological mother, having this resentment towards you, and then also working in this environment with these other kids that are going through so much stuff. So what are you doing for you? Like, how are you taking care of yourself and your mental health?
I hang out with myself and we have a good time. And
What? I love that you do. I love that. That is one of my favorite things anybody has said in a podcast episode yet. I hang out with myself and we have a good time. Oh my God.
yes.
Okay, elaborate. I love that.
Self-care. That's really all it is just having a good time. I find things that bring me peace, bring me joy. So nature, 100%. Like, and scientifically, if you look into it, like the amount of research that I've done on this is disgusting, but it's scientifically
Elaborate. I love
proven
it.
that if you go out into nature, just by the ions moving in nature, and if your ions are moving slowly because you're sad, then obviously your frequencies are going lower. So then if you go out into nature where the frequencies are moving very quickly, you're going to feel better. And so if I'm feeling low, if I'm feeling sad, then I'm going to go out on an adventure with myself or with my dog, and we're going to have fun together, and we're going to start feeling better. And then I come back home relieved, like, and my frequencies are higher, so now that I can fill other people's cups, now that my cup is back full. But if I'm walking around with my cup empty, there's no way that I can help others, right? So I just have to constantly
No.
make sure that my cup is full. And I'm always doing research to figure out how to do that. And I'm always hanging out with myself more to figure out how me personally I can do that. And then I just get her done.
Just get her done. What are
yeah.
some of your favorite resources, as you say you like are constantly reading? Like, do you have a favorite book on the topic of self-love, or
Yes.
you do?
There's this crazy moment that happened to me. So I just felt this connection with this doctor. It was so wild. And she prescribed me on some medications that I totally was against before this moment. But and then she called me back to the office and she gave me a bag of crystals and a book. And she said, these spoke to me. And I didn't believe in crystals at the time. Now I do. But she gave me this bag of crystals and she said, these spoke to me in this book. You need to read it. It's going to help you. And the second I read that book, my whole life changed. Awakening to Your Life's Purpose.
And the whole book is on self-love and discovering yourself.
It's about the mental processes, really, because
Okay.
society has such a huge impact on the way that we think and we don't realize it.
Oh, I talk about that in almost every podcast episode. I talk about how like society in general makes us worry about certain things and feel certain things. And yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, just like when you're having a kid and they're like it's a boy or girl and it's pink or blue. Like now we just relate girls to pink and boys to blue, and that's so weird because that's just someone else's thought from a long time ago that we've just consistently used.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes with everything.
Okay, so that's awesome. Hold the book up for me so I can see it, because part of this will go on YouTube and people can check it out. Okay. Cool. Thank you. I love good
So good.
recommendations on stuff like that. I think self-love and discovery is so complex.
It
And
is.
I want to slap people sometimes, even though I'm not violent, when people say, like, you have to learn to love yourself. And then, period. And then there's no further content there, because what does that mean? What it
Yeah,
like, I can tell myself all day long that I love who I am, but I'm just relaying a message to myself. Learning what self-love means has to happen before you can really discover self-love.
for sure. Yeah. And I think we have to realize that, like, when I was explaining this to my little brothers, I said, "Who are you?" And they said, I'm Noah, or I'm True, right? And I said, "No, that's your name. Who are you?" They said, "Okay, I'm a human." I said, "No, that's the organism that you are. Who are you?" And we sat there talking about it forever. But you are just so much more than all of those things. You're a soul. You're this energy. You're filled with like this consciousness that's more than all of that. And you need to take care of that. But you also have to take care of your biological vehicle too, you know. Take
Yeah.
care of yourself.
So answer the question.
Stay healthy.
Who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm a selfless, optimistic, um, curious energy.
Positive.
Positive. Yes, very.
You have that type of personality and you're obviously a very optimistic person, but that doesn't mean that you don't have days where you're depressed or days where you feel down and have to work really hard not to.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
can we talk about that? Because I think that a lot of people that are dealing with depression or past trauma feel they feel hopeless, or they feel like, why me? Why my life? And they get in such a bad place, it's hard to get out of that place. So can we just like dive into all of what that looks like for you? Because you don't have a victim mentality. You have a, I've been through some shit. This is what I'm getting from you, right? Like, I've been through shit and it's affected who I am, but it doesn't get to define me. I get to define what that means for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So talk to me. Let's say that you are having a really bad day. Like, is it like something triggers you when like a bad day happens, or does it just happen sometimes?
I feel like it just happens sometimes. Like sometimes you can just wake up and hate the day and not want to get out of bed. And it happens to me. And I don't want to get out of bed that day. I don't want to cook dinner. But you force yourself, I guess. Some days you have to. You have to force yourself and you have to train your brain. Like, why am I thinking this way? You know, there's like what I've read is there's 4 ways to suck energy, right? As human beings, if you go back all the way into human history, we're supposed to get energy from outside sources, but how we've set up society, we started to pull energy away from people, and we even pull it from ourselves sometimes. But there's this poor me energy sucking that a lot of people do when they're stuck in depression. I do it too. And you sit there and you feel bad for yourself, or you're aloof, right? And you that's another one. And you sit there and you pull people's energy by not talking about yourself, by not being honest. You want to pull people's energy and make them curious about you. Or you've got the intimidation, where you're intimidating someone and trying to get energy out of them that way. Or you're
That used to
interrogating.
be me. That was when I was the younger me going through hard stuff, but didn't know how to explain it. That was me. I was the angry one.
No, I've been all of them. I've been
Yeah.
through some shit, and you learn how to not, because you realize that when you're in those moments of trying to suck people's energy or trying to suck your own energy, it doesn't feel good for you either. So if you just fix your thought process, fix how you're looking at the situation, you're gonna feel better too. Like, not only is the situation gonna feel better, but you feel better. You're gonna treat people better. Yeah.
What does that mean to you to fix the thought process? Can you give me like an example of like a thought you're having that's like depression and what you do to try to transition that thought?
Um, let's think.
I know I'm really putting you on the spot today, huh?
Yeah. Let's see. Depression is a hard thing. Like, I don't want to get out of bed, you know. Everything's against me, right?
Yeah.
That's how it feels when you're depressed. the whole world's against me, the situation sucks, why did this have to happen to me?
Mhm.
But it's a battle to change that within yourself, but you have to do it for yourself, and you realize that along the way, and you have to force it at first, but you have to be gratitude is so important. Like, pick out the things you're grateful for every single day. Find the things that you're happy are there. Like, I'm happy I'm healthy today. I'm happy that my brothers are here today. And it makes it just a little bit better. Like, yeah, it sucks that my mom's not around. Gosh, I wish she wouldn't. But guess what? Like, she's where she's supposed to be right now. She's going to learn what she's going to when she's supposed to.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn what I need to when I'm supposed to and when I choose to. It's when we choose to do it. Because you're going to go through hard things and you're going to choose to either learn about it or you're going to choose to either feel bad for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, like, choose to be stronger or choose to sit there and look at the situation and dwell on it, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's where there's like a disconnect for some people, right? Like shit happens and it sucks. But that doesn't mean life sucks.
Yeah, and with the holding on to the past, that's what we do. When we're depressed or when we have filled with anxiety, we are holding on to thoughts from the past or we're holding on to thoughts from the future.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about something from the future that's giving you anxiety, you're holding on to something that's in the future. It hasn't even happened yet. And
Yeah.
so you just have to
Oh
learn how
yeah.
to be mindful, to be present. And it's a huge part of learning how to enjoy life again and to
Yeah.
beat depression. Because if you're holding humans do this weird thing where when you go through this terrible event like a sexual assault, you relate that event to the emotions that you were feeling at the time. And so now every time that you sit there and you're thinking about that event or you're thinking about those emotions, you're relating them to each other, but they're not the same. They're not connected. And we
Right.
do this thing where we think they're connected, but they're not. It's just an event that you went through. And the
Yeah.
emotions that you felt were what you felt when you went through the event at that time, but you're not that person anymore. You're new, you're grown, you're wiser, you're stronger because you did go through that event. So don't hold on to that past event in your thoughts and create your body to go through all those emotions constantly.
Yeah. You made a video thanking people from your past that
Yeah.
have hurt you,
Yes.
right? I remember seeing that. I'm going to insert it. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is gonna kind of sound sarcastic, but it is 100% not. Right now, I want to say thank you to all of the people in my life that left. I want to say thank you to all of the people in my life that told me I wasn't good enough. I want to say thank you to all the people in my life that decided to turn their back on me and not help me. I want to say thank you because all of that made me become the person that I am today. All of those doubts, all of those struggles and trials turned me in to the strongest person that I have ever been. And I love the person that I am today. I'm falling in love with the person I am today. I'm amazing. So, thank you. Thank you to all of the struggle. And thank you to everyone that made me grow. 100%. And I was holding on to grudges, is what we call them. I was holding on to some of those because people weren't accepting. Like when we talked about it, when I was going to go through this situation, nobody said go for it, Kenna. Nobody had faith in me, you know. And so I was holding on to a little bit of grudge against all those people. And I was like, well, why didn't they have faith in me? Why weren't they there for me? Why didn't they buy me a loaf of bread when we were struggling, you know? And finally, when I'm beating depression and finding myself again, I was like, you know what? I am so thankful that that happened actually because that made me stronger. I don't have to lean on a single person now because no one was there. Like I proved to myself that I am that strong, that I can get through that stuff with no one there. And I'm so thankful that they did that for me because that made me realize how strong I actually am. That made me realize
Absolutely.
how freaking cool I actually am. And so I'm thankful for all the things.
I 100% agree with you. I just did a video about I just literally saying, remember when you look at people that feel like that you wish you were like, that you're like, they're so much stronger than me, to remind yourself that you're looking at the potential you in the future. That
Yes.
like people aren't just naturally walking through life, this like glowing ball of positivity and strength. Those people have been through shit.
Yeah.
And because the strongest people, I mean, right now, everybody just think of the strongest person you know, right? To the listeners here, and tell me you don't know that they have not, that they've been through shit, right? The strongest people have been through the most,
Amen. And
you
they came
know,
out of it stronger on the other end. Because anytime you go through a hard situation, you come out stronger and wiser.
if you
Unless you
choose
sit
to.
unless you sit there and dwell on it,
Yeah. Yeah. And
which
it's,
we all do
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Everybody does it. And this isn't like trying to say you're not strong enough if you don't.
No.
It's just in those moments where you feel like you don't have the fight in you. So that's when you have to fight the most, is
Right.
when you
Yeah.
feel like you don't have the fight in you.
Oh hell yeah. Life's gonna knock you down over and
Yeah.
over and over again. And you have to get yourself up every single time. And you have to choose to do it.
It is so hard for people to break bad cycles in families. And you had to do that, right? So was there like a moment for you that you realized there was a cycle that had to be broken, or was it just like a natural way of life for you to be different and do differently?
I think that was always natural.
Yeah.
Because from elementary school I was like, I'm getting straight A's. I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be the best that I can be, always, you know? But
Yeah.
as I became older and saw my family, especially as I became an adult and you see your parents from a totally different perspective once you
Yeah.
finally get out of the childhood mentality, I was like, holy shit, let's change this. Because when you're growing up in that, like the boys, if they were to stay there, you know nothing different. That's all you know. And
Yeah.
that's the life you know, that's your perspective. And if no one shows you differently, then that's how you're going to continuously live. And it's so sad because I had that beautiful thing happen to me where my dad took me and I got to see this whole other side of life.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to gift this to the boys because this is the biggest gift that I've ever received. This is what's going to change my life and I'm going to change theirs too. And so I don't know, you have to get out of your family and kind of get a new perspective, I guess. You have to though, or else you're going to not know anything else.
You could still love and value the person and then be like, the way they think about certain things, I don't know if I feel the same way.
Right.
And to allow yourself to educate yourself and find what you actually believe versus what people are telling you to
Oh,
believe.
yeah, 100%. That's so huge.
Right. And,
Yes.
but it seems so simple, right?
Right.
When you say the words, it seems so simple, but it is not.
No.
It is so hard to break those cycles. So I think it's important for anybody listening that's in those situations, especially the younger listeners, like 20 or teens, like to remember that it's okay to think differently and be different than the way you were raised to think and believe.
Absolutely. Everyone's just trying to do their best. So you're
Yeah.
just raised by humans just trying to do their best. And everyone knowledge caps at some point. And you're going to either continue to stay in that cap that you were raised in and stay in those morals and perspectives that you were raised in, or you're going to change it and grow and be a
Yeah.
little bit different and mend it to your own self.
And there's ways to do that are respectful.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that gets a little construed sometimes where like you'll see people make videos about like my parents are a Trump supporter, but I'm not. And they like throw stuff in their face just to piss them off. And like, yeah, it's funny to watch. But at the same time, it's like you get a lot further and you have a better chance of educating those people that are stubborn, that value you and love you, if you approach things with this like open heart that says, I'm not saying you're wrong, but from what I've learned, I feel differently. Can we have a conversation about that?
Yeah.
This is how you change minds. This is how you make people better.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is
Non
how
judgment.
this is how we create equality and get rid of racism and go, where you have generation after generation that doesn't get an education and lives in poverty to somebody being like a self-made millionaire, right? These are the things that allow that to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just non non-judgment is so big in life, because if you're judging your parents for being a Trump supporter, right, and you're throwing things in their face, then your ego's in control of you, number one. But number two, you're judging them from where they're at. And everyone's just where they're at because that's where they're supposed to be. That's all they know. That's where they've chosen to be. So don't judge them for it. That's where they're at in their path. And you're at where you're at in your path. And just accept both of those. And it's okay if you're different. It's okay if you have different views. Just accept who you both are.
We're supposed to be different.
Yes, that's how we learn. That's how we get new perspective.
How boring would it be if we were all exactly the same?
Exactly.
Doesn't mean you have to be friends with people that values are different than yours, that you're very passionate about, but it also means that you can respect that they're different than you, and you can remove yourself from it, just like you can remove yourself and still love when people have toxicity in their life that you don't want in yours,
Exactly.
right? It's
Yeah.
it's all the same.
Amen.
All right, Kenna, I want to know from you, what is your like big piece of advice for a young single parent, um, with your experience so far?
My advice to a young single parent would be to not forget about yourself. Um, Take care of yourself first, then you can take care of others. And and don't try to fit the role of a parent that everyone else has told you is supposed to be a parent. Be you. Make it yourself. Make it make it fun. Make it exciting. Um, yeah. Don't forget who you are along the way of taking care of others.
I I really like that. I think that goes back to the ego and um worrying about what other people think about us, right? Because that's what you're doing when you put yourself in a role that you feel society has told you to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, make it your own.
Make it your own.
You know what's best for your own children.
Exactly.
And
And
that's
have
not
confidence
the
in that.
same for every parent and every child. That's not even the same for, I bet, the 3 kids in your house,
Yeah. It's different for each of them.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way you have to communicate things to them, the way they absorb information, it's different for every child. There is not a wrong or right way to parent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there is, but not when you're trying to be a good parent. When you're,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, but there are definitely parents that you're like, oh no. But Kenna, I am so grateful that you decided to come on the podcast and be a guest with me. And it's such a breath of fresh air to hear so much positivity from somebody that's been through so much that could have made life look so differently for you.
Well, then, no. Thank you for having me. Seriously. Happy to be here.